I want to introduce Christian Buckley. He's the Brand Alliance Director at AvePoint. He's a Microsoft Regional Director and an Office Apps and Services MVP. And Christian, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So Christian, for those who have not met you or had a chance to interact with you, talk a bit about your background, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
My dreams. I'm a Libra. I love a walk on the beach. Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me. It's been a long career. I've been in tech for 30 years. And so it's funny, as we were talking about kind of the setup, like kind of where did I start? Like my first major that I did for 3 years was industrial design. It was actually in product design. And funny enough, I had side jobs. I was working with the student newspaper and had some other graphic design stuff that I was doing in the late 80s. And I was using a Mac and I was fed up with spending hours and hours on a single technical drawing, a design, that aspect of it. And because I was doing so much with the computers, with graphics then in the rudimentary stage that the computers were in. And so I left that program. I went back and visited some of my friends that about a year and a half later, and the undergrad program, all computerized. Every room that I took my classes in, and took all my design classes, computers on every desk. And so that was pretty frustrating. But I moved over, I looked at a major where I could transfer all of my credits.
Sure.
Was over into a marketing degree. So that's what I got my undergrad in. And then went on and did an MBA later in technology management. But my first real job in tech in 91 was for a little company outside of Sacramento, California that did reclamation of equipment, of hardware, and managed the facilities for Hewlett Packard there out in Rockland, California. And I helped run another service that was a fax-based service that we provided for resellers all around the world, and helped build product and 2 years later sold that and went on. But I started my career in tech with that on the outskirts of tech. I did technical writing and became a business analyst at EDS, if those remember. Oh, yeah. Ross Perot's consulting company. He was gone after I joined, but working with EDS, and then got hired on at Pacific Bell. And so moved back to the Bay Area where I was born and raised, and worked there for 3.5 years. I joined about 6 months. I joined Pacific Bell, got split off into a shared services organization. And that's where I got introduced to, I was a technical project manager, was in the data warehousing space, learned Unix. Boy, that didn't age well. I didn't never use that again. But worked in that world, but then started owning all the front end applications and collaboration applications. And then went into, while still in the phone company properties, joined the 6-month-old Pacific Bell Mobile Services, which then got rebranded as Pacific Bell Wireless, which then got rebranded as Singular, which most people remember that. Yeah. And I was the director of handsets and accessories there. And so was responsible for every device that the company deployed, and still kind of in a technical project management role with that, because there was the device side as well as the services and the operations aspect. And then got into, stayed in that space, was the director of program management for another telecom company, one of the DSL companies. You remember the DSL companies when that was a thing and they were fast growing? That was North Point Communications. Throughout that before I left the phone company, I went to night school, had work pay for my MBA, and I started a company, a software company. And so I was, a lot of people can identify with that, where you have the day job that pays the bills, right? And I was going to school full time and at night, and I started a company at the same time, because it seemed like a good time to do that with 2, soon to be 3 children. I think 3 children when I started that company as well. Yeah, just I like to stay busy. But started that software company, which 3.5 years later sold that to Rational Software. I don't know if you remember Rational.
I use Rational Software.
There you go. And Rational so it was before IBM acquired them, but I worked for IBM. Actually, my first 3 books that I co-authored were on, one was formerly under IBM Press, but they were all in the IBM family. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun in that space running the company and got involved in community and user group as part of that. After I sold my company, went to another venture capital funded startup, a company called E2Open. They eventually went public. My one patent, there were many that my name was on, only one actually went through. But that was my first experience as a product manager, helping to develop specifically a collaboration platform on the front end for our customers. It was a secure hosted collaboration platform. Sound familiar?
It does.
Yeah. So that was it. We launched that in 2001. I was actually in Japan when 9/11 happened. So kind of easy to remember that trip. I was supposed to go home on the 12th. I got delayed another day. I was on the second flight that was able to leave Japan and head home to the West Coast. But that was E2Open was, I think at the time, had raised like $280 million. And I think they went on to raise another 50 to 70 million more. But they're, successful. They're one of the mainstays in the supply chain collaboration world and like demand planning for supply chain for manufacturing and high-tech electronics, that kind of thing. But through all of that experience, helping build portals, owning project portfolio management systems and all the documents, the artifacts around that, doing the data warehousing management, all these things which sound like very different roles. All of it was around, in my startup, we built our own instant messaging client and built that into our solution. We did a bunch of this stuff, all of these pieces, which eventually kind of converged into the collaboration space and kind of set me up for then joining in 2006 Microsoft in what was called Microsoft Managed Services, or MMS, which was rebranded as BPOS, or Business Productivity Online Services, which now the world knows as Office 365. So that's that. Then is this too much, too long?
No, this is great. You have such a varied history, right? And it adds a flavor to where you are today in terms of the things you had to go through to be able to speak to what you speak to today.
Well, it's interesting because people will say, it was like, well, look at, wow, you jumped around in different things. I'm like, when you're in it, I'm having project management and product management. So project management, I classify program and project management as like, that's a skill set that can be applied to any industry, any technology, any product. A product manager, like I'm building something specific. So I'm helping develop the features and the capabilities of a product or a service. Where program and project management, it's more of the deployment side, the differences between that. But I had been predominantly in project and program management roles. But what was consistent across all of the different industries, telecom, software, the collaboration industry, was the fact that all of them had collaboration tools, project management tools, shared calendars, shared communications, collaboration, knowledge management, storage of this information, the search capabilities, all the things which are part of the broader collaboration and communication space, which is what I've built my career around. Sure. So, but I was at Microsoft for 3.5 years. In 2009, went to a Microsoft partner that was doing migration software for SharePoint. 8 months later, they got acquired. That company, high flying, 3.5 years later, they got acquired. I stayed a year at that next company. So I've been, I don't know how many ISVs. I've worked as an independent for a while. I was a chief marketing officer for yet another ISV in the Microsoft ecosystem. and to where I am now. I work for AvePoint, which is the largest data management provider for Microsoft 365. So one of the biggest brands within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. But with all that, I mean, you can see on the wall behind me, I'm not showing off. It's just I had to get them out of the box, put them somewhere. 10-time Microsoft MVP, 2-time Microsoft regional director, and just very involved in the community.
And for those who, I mean, I know there are people who listen to the podcast who aren't familiar with the Microsoft space. Explain a little bit about what a regional director is and an MVP.
Yeah, so an MVP, and it's not like, hey, and there's levels. The MVP is here, and then you achieve the RD. It's just completely different things. The MVP is the Microsoft, what is it?
Most valuable.
The most valuable
professional.
Professional. That's right. Thank you for that. I should know that. So that program is very much it's a reward. It's for something or people that give back to the community. It's a bit of a black box. And I like to explain it this way, is that Microsoft can give that as an award to anybody that they want. Right. There's no list of, if you do these 10 things, you will therefore become an MVP. It doesn't work like that. And so you have to, so it's people that are generally, or I'd say the running theme of MVPs are people that are very community centric. We're connector personalities. We are always sharing, and we're working out loud. We're sharing what we're doing. We love to learn and then take what we've learned and have you seen this, and promote each other and that side of it. So it's a very supportive community. So if you ever see somebody that has some information that's a Microsoft MVP, and I'm sure it's similar with other programs, other vendors that have similar programs, those are the people, reach out, ask the questions. If I don't know the question, I likely know somebody who does know the question. And I'm always happy to provide an introduction or walk you over to that person and say hello. So never be shy. If I ever push back, it's because, look, I'm running into a meeting. I don't have time this second. Drop me a note. I'm happy to provide that introduction. But that's basically what that is. It's the MVP award is a reward for people in the community that have been very active, and Microsoft wants to recognize that activity and gives them a bunch of benefits. We get access to Microsoft executives and the product teams. We find out about things a little bit, beforehand, and get to provide additional feedback back. And they send swag. I don't buy my own clothing. They ship stuff to me occasionally. The regional director program is, so there are, I don't know how many, there are thousands of MVPs around the world. The regional directors, there's I think 250 in the world. So it's much more exclusive. There are more senior people. Most of the RDs are business owners, and we are experts in 2 or more technology areas, or 3 or more technology areas. At least 1 or 2 Microsoft product areas, and then competing product areas. They want people, and again, business owners, that we consume products and services, across multi-clouds. We work with Google and Salesforce and Amazon and others that compete directly with Microsoft. We are advisors. We are a resource that Microsoft can leverage. And a lot of times, a lot of our interactions, the feedback that we provide, we get swift response from Microsoft senior leaders, because with MVPs that can provide feedback on products and things, it's not always the most constructive feedback. And the regional directors are known, look, we've thought through the business impacts of this. Here's what we're seeing. Here's what we actually expect. Here's what we need. This is what's actually impacting our business and driving forward. So it has, I'd say, more weight than, the voice of an MVP. Not that Microsoft doesn't listen to everybody and listen to customers. And to be honest, sometimes as an MVP and RD, I think Microsoft's not listening to us. They're listening to customers over us, so everybody has that complaint, I'm not being listened to. Microsoft actually does a really good job of outreach. It is greatly improved from what it was 10, 15 years ago.
I would agree.
For the feedback mechanisms, but that's what it is. And I mean, for example, regional directors, they on a regular basis reach out and say, we have a new offering or a new product area, and we're looking for people with this experience to come in and meet with us and provide feedback. There are roundtables. There are white papers that we might write that are only for Microsoft internal use. They just want to, get that depth of expertise from the RDs. So that's what we are, advisors. It's a 2-year stint, in the program. So I've been renewed one time, and we're coming up for renewal again on this. And I hope to remain within the program and continue to provide that level of feedback back to Microsoft. So, we're here at the invitation of Microsoft executives. So that's
interesting.
it. Yeah.
I mean, not very many people know about the program, right? And you're right, it is very interesting. And
it's a terrible name because everybody thinks that you're a Microsoft employee or you're a Microsoft regional director. It's like, no, this is where the name came from. This is the level of thought, is that they want people out in the community who can, from a regional basis, I'm in Utah, so the mountain states, regionally direct Microsoft on where they should go, what to do. Stupid name.
Well, hopefully that doesn't jeopardize your renewal.
No, I think that's I'm being kind with there's been other things said within the community. Yeah.
So you've had a varied career. I really like that you started in that industrial design, and actually there's a lot of applicability to that when we get into product design, software, and get into solution design.
Less drawing of pictures of products that I do now, though, but yes.
Right. Well, right. So as you've gone through your career, what's something you've witnessed that you think, us in this field just need to consider changing? Maybe it's something we're doing wrong or something we're not focused on, we're ignoring it completely. So if we were to come to you, Christian, and say, Christian, we need thought leadership, what's something we should change within our, career area?
Something that I have, so I'm a bit of a, leadership development junkie. I love a lot of the business management books and things around that. But it's just something that in the running project and program teams for so many years. And I really enjoy people management, and I'm an individual contributor right now. I really enjoy that process and working with people and achieving goals through others. That's what people management is all about. I think that there's a common mistake that I think that needs to change in more organizations is that, and I've written an article about this years ago called The Myth of the Well-Rounded Employee. This idea that the people that we hire have to be good at everything that we hand them. And the reality is that there are things that everybody has passions about, things that we're good at. And if we could have more jobs that, it's not always possible, but construct jobs primarily around the things that people are like their core skills, their core capabilities, you'll have happier people, you'll have higher functioning teams with more output. And so we need to organizationally build our teams around this idea of managing to people's strengths rather than forcing them to be kind of untrue to their strengths and their capabilities. And I think that is, especially in technology in this field, I see this mistake made over and over again. It's like the mistake that's made where because somebody is a great technologist or coder, and then I'm going to promote them into a management role.
Right.
Like that, it's a very different job. And my personal experience is that most very introverted technical people are terrible people managers. And they gravitate towards the individual contributor, the IC role. Let them do that, create a path there. So, and it might even be more junior people, but are better at the people management aspect and keeping everything running. So that's just something that I think we need to do a better job at looking at our organizational structure and making sure that people, their career paths align with really what their strengths are.
That's a really great idea. Yeah, I would jump on board with that as well. In my career, I would agree with you. There have been many missteps where people were promoted beyond their actual capability. And it's not that they probably couldn't eventually have done it, but they were provided no support network on how to even do it.
Well, and also you're right. It's a great point. There's a lot of people that are fully capable and a lot of it is learned skill, but they might learn the skills and be really good at it and be really unhappy with that role as well. Yeah, there's a book that I highly recommend, and I would give this to all of my direct reports. It's Marcus Buckingham, The First Break All the Rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about exactly that. And so it just found it. I've met Marcus a couple times. So while I was at Microsoft, he came in as a guest speaker. And at the time, Ballmer was still CEO, and he was there consulting with Ballmer. And I was part of there's a management excellence community inside of Microsoft. I'm not sure if it still exists there now, but there's about 6 of us that were allowed to extra time that Ballmer didn't have to meet with Marcus that was paid for, shuffle him off to meet with the mech team. And so we got like 2-3 hours with Marcus digging into like his research and around that area. So it's a great book. Highly recommend it.
So what's next for you? I know we actually back up a little bit. We haven't even talked about some of your other stuff that you do. I mean, we talked about your career and your job. Talk a bit about the podcasts that you do and kind of a community involvement that you do.
Yeah, I've got a few things. So back in 2012, I started a monthly tweet jam. So I've been doing it for over 10 years. Wow. So it's the CollabTalk tweet jam. And so it's I think in the 10 years, I've only missed, I believe, 3 months where I didn't hold it because I was traveling or something or other. I just didn't do it. So I've been fairly consistent. All different topics. The core of it being CollabTalk, the name, it's around collaboration technology. So talking about that, but it varies widely. Sometimes we're talking about technology. Sometimes we're talking about process. A lot of the time we're talking about the cultural aspects around these various things. So that's something, it was a way that it's on Twitter using the CollabTalk hashtag. Anybody can join in. It's Twitter, it's open. But it's a 1 hour, I promote it as that, where there's 7 questions that we go through and people provide feedback. I post a question, people provide responses around that. Well, that is, as I've done the CollabTalk activities, different things. When I decided to go out on my own, take up my own brick, I created CollabTalk, the consulting company. I had the brand, I just created the logo, did some things. I also then started and I've been blogging, not under CollabTalk, but under Buckley Planet, which is my Twitter handle. And I realized it's a long name for Twitter handles. And it's something I created. My brother-in-law I love very much, and he's a wonderful artist, but he created his portfolio site, a website called my wife's maiden name is Fisher. He called his site Fisher Planet. To mock him, I created a site called Buckley Planet. And he had a bunch of art and things, and I went and did like MS Paint versions of his drawings. And so I did this complete mocking site. And then when I started blogging in 2002, I was using TypePad. If those that remember TypePad, yep. I ended up with a redirect over to Buckley Planet in 2004 when I made the transition over to buckleyplanet.com. So buckleyplanet.com has been a blog since 2004. But I started the CollabTalk podcast, and I now am on a schedule where I publish MVP and RD interviews every Monday. And then I do general podcasts every Friday with a variety of experts. This last week, I interviewed Jeff DeVerter, who's the CTO for Rackspace. And so some great content that, through there's, in depth into technology, process, and people, and kind of all those things. So I do all those things, plus community activities. So speaking on a number of different topics, very productivity centric topics that are out there. So I've also, those that might be familiar with the SharePoint Saturday movement, and I know things with pandemic kind of quieted down, but there's still a lot of them that are out there and running. I helped start about a dozen of them. In fact, most of them on the West Coast, I helped start. Not that I ran a couple of them for years. I think I ran the one on Microsoft campus. So it was the Seattle, the Puget Sound, SharePoint Saturday Puget Sound. I ran that for 7 years, I think, with a core team that we would rinse and repeat there. But I helped start those events in Salt Lake City, Bend, Oregon, Sacramento, the Silicon Valley, the Bay Area version, Los Angeles, helped with Portland, helped with Vancouver, helped with at the beginning, the first one with Honolulu, helped with Phoenix, helped with Boise, just Portland, a bunch of the other ones that have kind of then, of course, I've presented at these events all over the world. I've presented at and keynoted on conferences on 5 continents. So it's been, the community has been good to me. I've been able to get around and do a lot of stuff and see, I think I've been to like 40 countries now in the last 10 years.
Wow.
So it's been a lot of fun. It's hopefully we'll get back into that this year.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So what's next for you then? You have all this stuff going on. What's in the near future for you in terms of what you do for AvePoint and what you're doing in the community?
Well, I joined AvePoint. They were a customer for 4 years. And I joined them 14 months ago. And so my role is a few different things. So I manage the strategic relationship with Microsoft. So that's the alliance part of that. And there's other cloud providers. So I also manage the relationship with Google and will with Salesforce and other major, I still use the OEM, although
Right.
technically it doesn't apply, but original equipment manufacturer for those. That shows my age, I guess, to refer to them as OEMs. But the big brands, the alliances, the strategic alliances with each of those. I am part of the brand team. So as one aspect of marketing inside of AvePoint. So I'm a content creator. I have a big part of my job is evangelism around the channel specifically. And so we're doing a lot of recruiting of MSPs and consulting companies. So MSPs, for those who don't know, they're the managed service providers. So, you could go and they'll buy your licenses for Microsoft products directly through this vendor that also provides like project management and change management and other specialty in an industry, for example, a lot of MSPs that are industry focused. So, I'm helping recruit those MSPs to come on board within AvePoint. And then, as you know, I am also the head of the AvePoint Community Champions Program, which is growing rapidly, a lot happening. It's essentially AvePoint's MVP program. And so I get to talk to people, all over the world every week, and a lot of interesting things that are going on. So I can't get away from the community aspects of within my job. It's what I'm passionate about. So it's great to constantly get to talk to people and hear what other people are doing, get inspired by them, and hopefully be able to share some of my experience and wisdom and help benefit others as well.
And hopefully that'll be in person soon.
I hope so. Yeah, I've done 2 trips this year so far. I have that are scheduled so far 7 more this year of events and things. So yeah, it's starting to get underway again, thankfully.
Well, Christian, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. It's great to hear about your background and the various things you were involved in and that kind of really rich history in this tech community that you bring to the job you do today, and how you reach out to people and manage people and manage communities. So thank you so much.
It's great to be able to share some of that history. So thanks a lot for having me.